IEBC Chairman Chebukati criticizes the BBI report. Now just hold on a minute. That can't be right. Think about it for a minute. In case we go into a referendum, it is the IEBC, Chebukati's IEBC, that will run that referendum. And so by criticizing the BBI report, is already taking sides. But even politically, it's not a smart move. I know Kenyans who, the minute they hear the IEBC is opposing something, they will start to support it because they loathe the IEBC. And I'm sure you also know such Kenyans. And so I would not be surprised if the BBI gained a couple of supporters just because of this statement. Now, of course, Chebukati took issue with the radical changes to the IEBC proposed in the BBI report. I can imagine what Chebukati is thinking. He is probably saying to himself, we are trying our best here. And what happened in 2017 is not our fault. The deep state were all over us. There was nothing we could do, but we are doing a good job, the best we can. And so we are not the problem. I'm sure that's what Chebukati is thinking. I'm sure that is what is going through his mind. But as long as the server is still in France, allegedly the server with the real 2017 presidential election results, Chebukati should shut up. Maybe I need to say that more politely. He should keep his views to himself. Imagine a situation where you go into a meeting about a chicken which was stolen, and everything is going okay until this guy starts speaking. This guy who has been linked to missing chickens in the past. And the only reason why he's not at the top of the list of suspects is because he had traveled to Nairobi at the time the said chicken vanished. But now he's at the meeting and he's trying to say something. And nobody wants to hear what he has to say. Kwanza, people start asking, how did this guy get into this meeting? Now, if these lawyers at this meeting, gosh, did I say lawyers? Anyway, if these people at this meeting discussing the missing Ingoho would put their emotions aside for a second, they would realize that actually the person they don't want to speak has a lot of information they can use. He will not give it voluntarily, but if they corner him, he has experience in how Ingohos vanish in that village. He has some inside information. But alas, asking humans who are passionate about something called Ingoho or chicken to put aside their emotions is asking them not to be human. Now that is Chebukati's situation. He's not a thief of chickens, but I believe my illustration gives a clear picture of what the situation is here. Most Kenyans blame him for the 2017 presidential elections mess. Although the truth is, he was not the main culprit. Indeed, the truth is, Bwana Chebukati is a very brave man. Very brave under the circumstances. If you have an inkling of what really went down. But most Kenyans don't. And therefore they don't want to know. And they don't want to hear Bwana Chebukati speaking. Now, if you've taken in all my recent videos, you will know that I've divided the BBI proposals into what is real medicine and what is sugar coating, syrup. And this issue we're discussing here falls under real medicine. You know, real medicine is very bitter. It is sometimes repulsive. And that's why it has to be mixed with sugar for people to take in. Because the truth is, we have tensions because the results are always cooked. And it is, of course, the IEBC that is mandated by the Constitution to give us those results, and results that are indeed not cooked or fiddled with. That is their mandate. That is true. However, this issue is much deeper than that. Anybody who thinks that as long as we put very truthful, honest people we can trust at the IEBC, if you believe that is enough to ensure that our election results are never again cooked, then I'm sorry, you're being very naive. And this brings us to the biggest argument against the BBI that most Kenyans have, which goes something like this. The problem we have in Kenya is that we do not get elections that are free, fair, and verifiable. The results are always cooked. The day we will sort out that, we will get rid of tensions after election results are announced. And therefore, we don't need the BBI, because the BBI does not address election fraud. What does expanding the executive have to do with fraudulent elections? That's the argument of very many Kenyans. Now, I'm keenly aware that most of us are very emotional about the BBI. Indeed, the minute anybody mentions BBI, shetani fulani anaamusha huko ndani. But please, take a very deep breath and let's put on our thinking caps. Put your emotions aside for a minute. I will not say what Hezron normally says. Emotion ni our mama. Wewe Chris umebeba ile kitu inasema wewe ni mwanaume. Ama to confirm? No, I will not say what the old man says. And he usually says it to me more often than you can imagine. Referring to things I say. Anyway, thinking caps on. These people who have stated that truth, because yes, it's true, have not given us a solution. They have not told us how we are going to ensure that going forward, we never again have electoral fraud. Or as we put it on this channel, pap, 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 you're duly elected. They have not told us how to deal with that. They have not floated a single idea. And the reason is easy to see. It is because this is one of those problems that cannot be solved directly. The problem is in Nairobi, yes, but you need to go to Mombasa first, before coming back to sort out the problem. If you don't go to Mombasa, yes, the problem is in Nairobi, but if you don't go to Mombasa first, there is no way you can solve your problem in Nairobi. This is one of those problems. Because the deep state responsible for fiddling with the elections is similar to smoke. You can't capture smoke. You can't catch smoke. But what you can do is find the source of the smoke. Like a small fire trying to start. And there are many problems we face every day that are exactly like that. You're traveling from Mombasa to Nairobi, and your car breaks down at a place called Samburu. That's before you reach Voi. Traveling from Mombasa, and you have a pretty good idea of what is wrong with your vehicle. It's the fuel injection system. And you flag a car to give you a lift back to Mombasa. And your wife, who you're traveling with, tells you, "My husband, have you gone mad? Voi is just here. Why do you want a lift back to Mombasa? Kwanza, this place is not safe. I hear there are wild animals not too far away. We could be attacked by a rogue lion or something like that." Are you thinking straight? But your reasoning is sound. Voi may miss the spare part you're looking for. They don't have everything. In fact, chances are very high you won't find the spare part in Voi. And what is more, you'll be able to return with the mechanic you trust in Mombasa to fix the problem for you, the one who normally handles your car. And even the guy who gives you a lift is asking you, "Where are you going? Are you going to Nairobi? Then why are you going back to Mombasa?" And by this time, you're very tired trying to explain. So you tell them, I've forgotten something in the house. I'm going to fetch it as I fetch the spare part to repair my vehicle. End of story. You want some peace. And sure enough, in Mombasa, your mechanic agrees with you that based on the symptoms, you're right. That is what is wrong with your vehicle. But apart from that, he also carries a few other spare parts just in case. And you solve your problem in Samburu by first going back to Mombasa. That's what we're faced with here. And in my view, and I know this is going to be controversial, the BBI actually addresses tensions during elections by expanding the executive. And this is how. Highly respected Yash Palgai and Zamba Gitonga, in their draft constitutions at different times, both recommended an expanded executive. And by the way, Zamba Gitonga has just passed on. Condolences to his family. We have lost a great Kenyan. May he rest in peace. Anyway, these two great legal minds were not mad. No, they were looking for a better Kenya. And they were keenly aware that this is the kind of problem you solve in Samburu by first returning to Mombasa. For starters, when you have an expanded executive, it already dilutes the winner takes it all. And therefore we must win the presidency mentality that we have in Kenya. Because you're going to have another Bwana Kubwa, a prime minister. And therefore a political party can strategize as follows. We don't have a strong candidate for the presidency, but let's go for the premiership. Let's put all our resources into winning as many parliamentary seats as possible. Yeah. And even if the prime minister ends up coming from the same political party as the president, things are not the same. Because you have two minds, actually four minds, four brains in the executive, instead of the current one. And that changes a lot. For starters, it is not politically viable for the prime minister to come from the same tribe as the president, even if they are from the same political party. And a smart politician of a president will also ensure that the two deputy prime ministers also come from different tribes, so that in the executive you will have 4 different tribes from Kenya instead of 1. And so, even though the prime minister and his deputies are appointed by the president, that is true, things are not the same. It will be very difficult for critical executive decisions to be discussed in vernacular. In many instances, the 4 will have to discuss them. These other 3 in the executive will also be politicians with their own strong backing, following, voters behind them. And so it will not be business as usual for the presidency. Because even if he sacks the prime minister, there'll be political ramifications, consequences, which will force the president to look at issues nationally, even if he doesn't want to. The president will even have a very viable excuse to go against hardliners in his camp. He'll simply tell them, I have to consult with the prime minister. And the prime minister is against this thing you're suggesting. And we need his support. And all this will dramatically reduce the incentive of the deep state to fiddle with the presidential election result. Because even if the deep state fiddles with the election and gets their man into the presidency, they still have a problem. Because there's a prime minister they'll have to deal with, and they can't control that. There are 2 deputy prime ministers to deal with. They can't control that either. And so, fiddling with the presidential election will no longer be a neat solution for the deep state. In fact, there are those who believe that with 4 people in the executive, it will be enough to free parliament to be independent. and to take up the role intended for it by the Constitution. And that is to be an oversight over the executive. To check executive excesses. It is instructive that before the election of President John Pombe Magufuli in Tanzania, this particular system worked very well in Tanzania. And we have many cases from the past where Parliament checked on excesses by the executive. And also, presidents were forced to consult Parliament and not to talk down to it. And remember, this system was instigated in Tanzania by a very serious political thinker, the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. The man who has built the most cohesive country in Africa, Tanzania. You see, we have to understand something. The deep state will always be there. As long as humans are there, the deep state will always be there. And they'll always want to do things their way. I mean, the deep state is even in your family, in your house. Your family has a deep state. Refer to my earlier videos on this subject. And so we cannot wish it away. And yet we cannot catch this smoke. And therefore the wisest thing to do is to deal with the problem by taking away the incentive of the deep state to fiddle with presidential elections. And I believe this is one way of doing it, expanding the executive. Granted, it is not perfect. It's not a perfect solution. It is not even guaranteed. The deep state can still fiddle with presidential elections. However, it is a solution worth going for. It is what we have on the table at the moment. And a bird in hand is better than two imaginary ones still flying around somewhere in the bush. But we have to find a way to pressure these politicians into reducing dramatically our representation, the members in parliament. And one good way which I've suggested is by taking the counties to become constituencies. Because we have too many parliamentarians, too many. And anybody who wants to sincerely look into the issue of cutting down costs, reducing the burden on the taxpayer, needs to look at parliament, not the executive. Not just 3 additions to the executive. Rather, we should be looking at getting rid of 200 or more people from parliament. People are proved to be useless. Just cash guzzlers and nothing else. Exchanging cash in toilets. Those are the guys we need to look at, not the executive, which can help us solve some of our most critical problems. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.